to who you are and what Unified looks like at your school, but then also how has the pandemic kind of impacted your Unified programming at Castleman, and how has that kind of impacted the students there as well?
All right. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here tonight and share my experiences and hearing has changed immensely this year. So when we started, we're a small school, about 500 students in the eastern part of Ontario, about just east of Ottawa. And when we started the Special Olympics 8 years ago, the school program, Unified was new also. So the timing was perfect because we were new at it, and the Special Olympics also was the program was kind of new. So we kind of were able to grow at the same time as what the with the Special Olympics and figuring out how to do it and all that. The first thing I remember, what was so intriguing is when trying to think, it was Kirsten that talked about how Unified, you've got your traditional athletes and you've got your Unified athletes, and they will play on the same team and they will compete on the same team and compete on the same level. All right there, that's that my curiosity was picked right there. Like, I was like, okay, how do we do this? And I guess I had a vision of having um, not a unified team, but a team that works together with different levels of talent on the team, and how do we form a team with it, right, and compete as a team. So that's a bit of the philosophy or the image I had of how I wanted the Unified to be, where I had unified students that were kind of controlling and complementing our traditional students, and how to do that, which is super intriguing. And it was fun to see different, because I had I knew the unified students. Sometimes I didn't know that well, and I just kind of tried it and see how they react. And and it was interesting to see how everybody gelled. um, Obviously, the provincials, I was able to see more about that gelling part. And I guess the level at the regional level wasn't equal. So we could have had a way stronger team, and that's a little bit difficult because it's not really what traditional is all about. You want level playing teams that are able to compete at the same level and maximize and push every student to be at their best. I know that the unified students sometimes are really good athletes, but you still have to be at your best as a teammate, right? And not only as the athlete, but at your best as, okay, let's form a team here. Okay, so that's my view on unified and how I see it and how I use it at our school. Um, this year, well, yeah, the last year and a half, unified has been really tough. We had a really good thing going where I had students coming to me and asking, can I participate, for different reasons. Some was for the right reasons, meaning they wanted to do it with the Special Olympics. Others was because, well, I'm going to miss a day of school, right, to go to this tournament. But it was fine. I didn't read because I saw some really good uh, experiences where I brought a kid like that, where I kind of convinced him I want him. There's one kid no, two kids I really wanted them to come. They were very active kids, but didn't really play on the varsity teams or anything, but decent at sports. And these guys are more skidoo, anything that's motor, not really. So I convinced them to come. As you're going to miss a day of school, come with me. And it was amazing to see how they reacted. They were one of the most interesting groups, that team that I've ever had. It was so fun to see. So sometimes, yeah, you have to be a little bit clever, and you got to push them into these situations. And that's how I promoted the unified at my school, was to have all types of different kids live the unified experience, and then go, okay, this ain't bad. So then after that, it was always like, if I needed them, it was like, yeah, I'm there, but I had, yeah, sometimes you have to push them a bit. You got to be a little bit tricky to bring them. So yeah, I lost a lot of students, obviously. A lot of them have graduated. It's been 2 years now that we haven't done much. So the grade nines now are now, the grade nines back then are now grade 11, 12 now, and they don't know much about it. And so it's been tough. So my approach for this year is, so we do have a sports program, with another teacher, and I went to her and I'm like, and you guys were nice enough to say, yeah, well, let's not put any limits on how many students we're going to allow as unified. And I took the whole group, and we were 40 some on one team, right? It kind of worked. It worked for two tournaments. So for the soccer and the track, for the basketball, I kind of went more like, okay, I'm gonna ask for names, like volunteer. So I'm just gonna ask for volunteer out of the same group. I didn't get as many students as I wanted to, but I know for a fact though that I can go and get probably 4 or 5 other students that I know from outside. The problem is the whole distancing thing at school, and not being able to mix groups. The reason why I was able to get this unified group at the same time, was my phys ed class with my special needs was at the same time, and we're sharing the same gym. So we had to be a little bit tricky, because we had to have 2 meters difference and when we're inside. So it had to be a little bit tricky. But it's just a goal of just trying to keep it alive, keep it active for a year, and then once everything opens up, I'll go back to what I did before, where it's really scouting students and bringing them in to see how it goes. So that's how I dealt with it before, and this is how I'm dealing it with it now. I can't imagine though, if I had a classroom without any phys ed, and you're registering your students into Special Olympics, and as a teacher you have no contact with the regular classes, that would be tough. I think the best way is, try and go and talk to the phys ed teachers. Um, Sometimes you can have a good relationship. Hopefully you have a good relationship with the teacher. The teacher kind of understands what unified is, because people still don't understand. They still think there should be rules that, well, the unified shouldn't be able to score, and inside a line in basketball, but they don't completely get it yet. But like I said, the last 2 years kind of hurt. So trying to keep it alive and see where it goes from there.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So I'll pass it off to Jenna now. If you could just give kind of an overview of what kind of like unified opportunities are available for students when they move past the secondary level into colleges and universities. Like what can they do to kind of keep staying involved, and what does it look like at Western?
Absolutely. So at Western, a big thing for us is really focusing on the experiential learning aspect, and being able to help the students apply what they're learning in the classroom into real life situations. So whether it's at Altos at our teachers college, whether they're in disability studies, they might be in kinesiology, being able to bring them in is a big thing for us, to expand the learning from the classroom. So work with different populations, be able to adapt their approach and their communication skills, as every SO athlete that we're finding is very different. So for us, a big thing is getting them into the facility. Just as Stefan said, is trying to go at it a specific way. So our target has always been focused on the experiential learning, but also by the time they get them in, they don't want to leave. Being able to see the SO athletes every single week has been one of those things that almost keeps them coming. It's not really building their resume or building their co-curricular record. It's truly the friendships that they make, and knowing that after an hour in the gym, you're going to walk out and be like, I feel amazing, no matter what midterm I have this week or what paper, just because the attitude in the gym is completely different. So that's been a big thing for us. This year, I know I've spoken about it before, is we've totally taken our program virtually. So we went from having our intramural league, which was every week, Sunday basketball, to every Tuesday night, we were hosting a different theme. So we had games night, we had trivia, we had some sports, we had holiday parties, we had dance parties, we had fitness parties, like all of these things we could think of, arts and crafts, just to keep them engaged and coming back. Whether it was our unified partners or SOs, we knew through this our SO athletes needed to continue to be engaged, and this was a great way to keep the momentum going. So when we were allowed to bring our external users back on campus, our program could continue seamlessly. And unfortunately, we had to pause that because I had to reopen the facility, and unfortunately, my attention was needed elsewhere. But what we've done this term is we've offered free tickets to our varsity game. So we've emailed out saying, you know, we have a football game this Saturday, unified partners and SO athletes, we'd love to see you. Jordan took initiative last weekend in getting people organized for a varsity basketball game and trying to get them into the game that way. So yeah, definitely same thing. We've kind of hit a bit of a roadblock right now, but I'd say through the unified partners, we've been able to kind of keep that program. And actually some of our unified partners have graduated and still continue to show up. So I think that just kind of gives some testament to the program of how amazing it is.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And for Jordan, I was wondering if you could kind of give a bit of your story of whether or not you were kind of involved with Special Olympics before you got to Western, and kind of how that's impacted your involvement once you got to university. And kind of, yeah, just where that's at and how it, from your perspective, from a student, what incentivized you and what keeps incentivizing you. I mean, Jenna kind of touched on it with the relationships with athletes, but what incentivized you at the very start to kind of get involved? Because I think that's often the struggle with Unified, is recruiting people, but once you've got them, I know at least from my experiences with motion ball at Queens, it is like, yeah, once you get the students in the building and they can see the impact that the programming is making, you've kind of got them hooked. But what kind of got you in the door at the start?
Yeah, for sure. I think it was definitely a few things, just a few opportunities. Firstly, my older sister participated in Special Olympics like all throughout growing up. So I was able to see firsthand like what those opportunities could do for her. And she was able to like travel, and just this community it created for her. So first of all, just like love Special Olympics and always wanted to get involved and just didn't really know how. So like going into university, I was like, do I just reach out to like Special Olympics period, or what do I do? And then through my job working at the rec center, there was a few days when I was working on those Sundays and I saw the unified athletes come in and the unified partners, and I just thought it was so fun. I just wanted to like sit and watch, and like I wanted to join in and play too. So by the time the next year came around, I definitely reached out to Jenna and wanted to join, and unfortunately it was online, but it was still such a good opportunity for me. And like Jenna said, it was like every week it was an hour where I didn't have to think about school and I could just like talk to my friends, and it was really nice to be able to keep up with them every week and just kind of like hear about their day. And it was in COVID when everything was really hard, it was just so nice to like not think about that stuff. And it's like I'm here with my friends, and like you said, bringing people in. I know like my roommates would just like walk past my room and see me just like dancing with my headphones on. They're thinking like, what are you doing? And I was like, it's so fun. And I got a few of my friends to join as well, just through the pandemic, because it really was only an hour of your week, right, to put towards forming these connections. And I think that's exactly what you said. It just takes one time. Like they just see how fun it is. And like Jenna said, you always leave, even if it's a Zoom call, you're always leaving with a smile on your face, like no matter what the theme is. So that was a big thing for me. And yeah, I really hope we get to go back into person soon, because I think everyone kind of needs it, you know, like everyone needs to be back in person. And I think we could even get more people that way.
For sure. So for my next kind of question, this is open to all three of you to kind of answer, but from more for people that haven't implemented unified programming into their schools yet, more from a sports perspective, how do you guys ensure that there's that equal kind of balanced like competitive level of play between your Unified Partners and your Special Olympic athletes. If anyone wants to take that first, go ahead.
Yep. Well, that's a good question. I have to admit, it's not always. Sometimes it fails a little bit. I've seen students where I thought they would, unified students that would shine, and they were shy about it. At some point, I had to go and see them and go, if a player passes you the basketball, it's because they want you to score, right? So you can score. That's important. So it's communicate. It's something. It's almost like a social experience a bit sometimes, because you kind of. I always put them in the situation and see how they react to it, and then after that, I'll deal with it during the day. I've had some students. They're rare though, that I've had staff who said they're not the best ones, right? They were too shy, too to themselves, and sometimes a little tough. It's intimidating sometimes. At the same time, it's funny to say, but it's sometimes intimidating in the fact that, how do I act? How do I react? Am I supposed to give them the ball all the time? Am I supposed to play soft or whatever? But you know what? And I see a difference also once we get to the provincials. Like I said, I can't stress, once it's equal playing field, when you play a team that's similar to your own strength and both teams are competing at it, going at it, then you see the unifieds, be even more into it, and then understanding a little bit more that, and they get the competitive juices going. I want to win. I can't, they realize I can't play on my own here. I need to integrate the two other players on the surface with me and form a team with. Like I said, it's sometimes a bit of a social experience, but it's surprising, like you put some kids in that situation and you're like, wow. I usually tell them, this is my advice to them, is push the pace, look at your adversary and push the pace to what you think we can play at, and the other team. If the other team is strong, let's play as strong as they do. And if you see it's a little weaker, well, push the pace a little bit less more, and we'll and deal it that way. So, but it's always though forming a team though. It's that I can't stress enough.
Awesome, thank you. Does anyone else have anything to add for that?
I can jump in here. This one took us a bit of time to figure out, and thank God for Chris, because he helped us get there. But the first thing that we did is we hosted a tournament just to kind of gather the level of interest in the London community and see if it was going to be able to turn into an intramural program, like a weekly program. So first thing we did, and that we continue to do at the beginning of each session, of each term, I should say, is that we have them go through a skills session. So we actually break down the skills, their dribbling, their shooting, all of that. And then we're kind of able to form the teams that way. But our unified partners are the ones who really kind of take the lead on that each week. If they see that someone's kind of taking the ball, like one of our SO athletes is really dominating each game and shooting all the time, they will kind of encourage them, okay, let's do 3 passes before we shoot. So they see those things and are able to kind of navigate those, which has been amazing. The other thing where I really pulled in Chris is we were at the youth games in Toronto, and our unified partners were being very careful with playing equally. For them, they wanted the SO athletes to shoot, to pass, to dribble, all of that. And it wasn't until Chris and I had a conversation, he's like, no, like your unified partners need to play and be like active participants. And as soon as he said that and we took it back to the team, they're like, oh, okay, we can play. This is awesome. Because they also didn't want to go out, fully competitive because it was brand new to us. So I think, yeah, having that conversation with Chris of like, no, you want the unified partners to play as equally and as much as the SO athletes and shoot as much and dribble as much. I think that kind of made the connection. So being able to explain that to the Unified partners and SO athletes, that everybody's to play equally, to take the same amount of shots, but also really encouraging that environment of passing to each other and not kind of letting the same player continually shoot each time. So I think those are kind of the two big things for us, is doing the skill session, but then also having that conversation of everybody is to participate and not just continually pass to the SO athletes to shoot, that Unified can shoot as well.
Right, awesome. Jordan, do you have anything to add on to that, or are you good?
I'm good. I didn't have that much of an opportunity to play with them, unfortunately, but I mean, I agree with what Jenna said. It's like, even if you're just playing just competitive sports, it's kind of like no one likes ball hog. So you want to share the ball, and it's just like a respect thing. You always want to like compete. You never want to like go too soft for anyone.
Yeah, for sure. And then
I was sorry, I just wanted to. I was able to go and witness the World Unified Championships in Chicago for the 50th anniversary, where and I was lucky enough to be able to send 2 students, one unified, one traditional, and yeah, it was pretty incredible to see the competitiveness and the play that was being played at that soccer tournament. And yes, okay, sometimes we can debate other countries. Well, what exactly is a Special Olympian, but that's another story, another time. But at the same time, like you know, everybody, the Unified competed hard, and that was nice to see, because everybody, you know, had to step up. Everybody steps up.
Thank you. Chris, do you want to answer I think there was a couple questions in the chat, just about co-ed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, co-ed definitely encouraged community hours for unified sport. I'm not entirely sure on that one, but this is considered a sports team, and that's, I think, I'm assuming that if you're in high school, you can't use any sports teams for community hours. I assume that's where that question is going. So yes, it is first and foremost considered a sports team. And that's what we are encouraging around our high schools in Ontario, because we want that experience for the SO athletes to be wearing their team jersey, representing their school when they go to higher level competitions, and when they're winning championships, coming home with championship banners, and they have their high school team photo in the high school yearbook as well. So yes, very much so a team sport.
Awesome. And so kind of one of the last talking points I wanted to cover was with everyone again, but looking at outside of just within the sports, but kind of how do you create a unified culture? Jenny, you kind of touched on it, especially within the virtual aspects, trying to do things like things over Zoom and stuff like that, but how can you have that community feeling between your unified partners and your Special Olympic athletes outside of the sports? Yeah, how can you transfer that kind of between the playing field and then into the classroom and in the schools and outside of the class as well?
I think for our students, our unified partners who show up, they really invest in the program. And when I say that, I mean they really focus on the relationship building. They understand the value that this brings to the SO athletes. And so they're the ones that truly focus on the community. So we'll do certain things where they can show up early, and we'll kind of do like a check-in where they just get for 5 minutes. That was a big thing for us on Zoom, where we literally had breakout rooms. We would randomly split people, and then they just got to have 10 minutes and chat about their week. Or we'd say, okay, this week's about your favorite movie, or this week's about your favorite holiday treat, since Christmas is coming up. So for us, the conversations just organically happen. I don't feel it's anything that we have to force or we have to kind of script. It's something where our SOF or our unified partners really want to create those relationships, and they want to create that welcoming and safe environment for SO athletes. To the fact that some of our unified partners went on and created Western Words Matter Club, where they're advocating for inclusive language on campus, and they're really creating that presence on campus of going out and educating the other student bodies. So I think for me, it's just as someone who's kind of, I met with Chris, I'm going to say in June 2018 when we heard about the program. And as someone who's brought it, I am incredibly proud of the program from the spot of the Unified Partners. People who show up, who are invested, who are proud, who, like Jordan, go and say to their friends, you have to come, you have to be a part of this. To then seeing other Unified Partners going and creating clubs because of their experience here. So for me, as I'm going to say, as a staff member, watching it unfold organically without having to encourage these things, once you show up the first time as a Unified Partner, you understand and you get it and you jump right into the deep end. There's no asking questions. You just go for it because it's so moving. So I think for us, it might be a little bit different than high school, just because of where the students are at, and also it being connected to their learning, that they understand kind of the background behind the different things and knowing how to use the techniques and the learning from the classroom and apply it into those real situations and adapt as they go. So yeah, I'd say we were it could be me, but I'm incredibly lucky with the Unified Partners I've had, and it's what makes our program so successful.
Well, high school is a little different in the fact that the maturity of the kids are also way different. It always depends also on the age group. I get grade 9s, look at it, they're 14 years old. Some of these kids, they were in their feeder systems like elementary school where they might have not have had special needs groups at that school. So this is like totally new for them. There is an organic relationship that is done. I find where it's been, the relationships have been even better is the kids that I bring to the provincials. They get to spend even more time with this. Well, they sleep in the same dorms. They eat and eat and sleep beside each other. And so I always get where I have even my Unified Partners will share their phone number with one of my students and with the students and all that. So we are so it's only been, like, I consider it only 3 years that we were really doing Unified. If you think and look at all the seasons that we've had with the COVID, we were building a momentum. That's the hard part for me right now, is that the fact that we had a momentum. We had to introduce a buddy system in school where my students were eating lunch with regular kids. So we were just, the school was really buying into it. The school board also is really pushing for it. And then COVID happened. So it's, like I said, it's a bit of a delay now. I'm trying to, once everything opens up, everybody's on board to just, get things going again and see how we can grow as a school for the Unified. But my students are involved in all kinds of things all through school. If it's with the student body or anything, they do activities with them. So.
Awesome, thank you. And then I've got one more question. This is more directed to you, Jordan, but this is for like any high school student that's watching the recording of this later on. What advice would you give to someone that hasn't ever had any interactions, like kind of like what Stefan was talking about, no kind of previous experience interacting with Special Olympic athletes, and kind of that it was touched on earlier, even that intimidation factor, hesitancy towards getting involved. Kind of what advice would you give to them?
Yeah, I think the intimidation just comes like everything, right? It's like we fear like what we don't know. So growing up, if you have no experiences where, you don't get to work with different populations or meet them, that can definitely be really difficult. So I think it's just give it like one chance, like just go to like one meeting, just like get on one call, go see one basketball game, like go with a friend. I think one opportunity makes such a difference. Like just like meeting a few people, I think that changes everything. Because I think it's not too hard to motivate someone to like, just come to like, this meeting with me. It'll be fun. And then just going to that one, and I think after the first time, I've seen it in so many people, it just gets so much easier. Like they, like a switch flips and they're like, oh, like what was I intimidated about before? Like what was I thinking? Like this will be so fun. So I think it's just encouraging people to just kind of take that leap in the beginning, and then it becomes easy after that.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you to our panelists. If there's anyone in the chat that wants to ask a question, or you can unmute yourself if anyone has any questions about anything that's been discussed or anything that we might not have covered, feel free to ask those now. If not, though, I can pass it off to Chris. And yeah, thank you guys again for joining us tonight. Those were some awesome discussions and really valuable information that I'm sure that we can all apply in the classroom and outside as well.
Can I just jump in for high school staff? I was just wondering if you have potentially like a communications course who might be looking at a project, because I find the thing that is very kind of moving, but also a bit of a barrier breaker, is seeing videos of Unified in action, where you're seeing Unified partners participate with SO athletes. And if you were able to kind of get some students together where they could recognize people from your school community, to me, when I do a presentation to new Unified partners or I'm doing some kind of training, the first thing I do is pull one of the videos, because to me, seeing it, like you cannot not smile for the 3 minutes watching it. Like it's so moving. So I don't know if you could maybe pair up with a communications or video where you can kind of give someone a group project. But to me, that might be something where they're seeing it and they're getting a bit of a glimpse into it, as opposed to just kind of showing up in a gym like, I don't know what I'm doing. I think this will be fun, but I really don't know, where that would kind of like glimpse.
Yeah, that's definitely a good idea when everything comes back. So right now, I've been telling even my Unified partners, it's not truly unified. Like we're doing skill competitions, so it's unified, but it's not the competitive interaction, working together as a team type of Unified. But I think that would be definitely a good idea. I can, I remember games where it's like, man, I should have taped and just have that as a symbol, and realize, okay, these kids are really intense, and that's some of the comments I get. And they're not the most careful when they play basketball either, when it gets really competitive. But it's good though, and it's good that the Unified get to see this, and it's probably something I should have probably have taped and kept it as an example, and to show kids and try and motivate them to participate and see that, yeah, it's fun. It's just not because I think some kids think it's, I'm going there to be nice, they're sweet, but it's not exactly what we want Unified to be, right? We want them to be teammates, and not really like, I'm there to volunteer, and have more the feeling of volunteering than there to participate. I want them to be there and say, okay, I'm here to participate. Obviously, the better ones, they'll help out a bit with the kids, getting equipment on and off, but I always tell them, you're not the teacher, you're here to participate. But most of them are really good, and they just help out a little bit more. So yeah, that's definitely a good idea, Jenna, and it's something that I'm going to really think about and see what I can do when everything opens up.
Yeah, thanks. That's great. And I think, Jenna, what you're saying is the message is really in the story, right? How do we communicate the story outside of the gym to the greater community and get more people involved? So I totally agree with that. And I love the way this conversation has evolved tonight, talking about more of those social aspects of Unified. It's not just about the sport, it's really about those broader relationships that the individuals are building between each other and carry those outside the sports field. And that's really at the core of Unified. And that's what's driving this Unified Champion Schools program, with those social pillars and advocacy pillars that are outside, again, of the competition realm. So with that said, thank you all for your time tonight, and special thanks to our panelists, I always love listening to your stories and your passion for the programs that you're running, and that's why we keep asking you back. So please keep coming. we love you guys. Thank you so much. Have a great night, everyone, and we'll see. Our next session is Tuesday at 7 p.m. It's our wellness series, so looking forward to that. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.